Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This day we are going to be looking at what is happening across the nation. Lots of tribal wranglings, hate speech, and a host of others. So we are going to be looking at whether it is time to forge a real Cameroonian identity where a Cameroonian would identify with and will not feel estranged from wherever they find themselves. What has gone wrong in the country? We are going to be looking at this with our panelists who are already in the studio. Two of them are in the studio, two are on their way. We hear that there is heavy traffic in town, so we hope that very shortly they are going to be joining us in the studio. We are already in the company of Dr. Simo Marcel, who is representing the CPDM party out here in our studios at Goudron, Mbangue, Douala, Cameroon's economic capital. Bonsoir et bienvenue.
Merci, bonsoir. C'est un plaisir d'être avec vous ce soir. Et je crois qu'il sera beaucoup plus fréquent que hier. Donc un bonsoir comme ça à vos téléspectateurs et aux co-panélistes qui est là pour le moment.
Okay, Professor Mark Anthony, Pan-Africanist, is in the house with us. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Leo, and to my fellow panelists and to the million viewers out there watching at us. I want to say it is another evening, and I believe that we'll be using this particular program as an educative program and to discuss on how we could forge ahead in building an African, let me use the word, a Cameroonian identity, which will reflect around the world for people to actually know who we truly are, because for a long period of time we have been living divided and scattered, though we are supposed to be diversified in our unity.
Okay. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is on his way, and Fa Elvis Tayon. They both are going to be joining us in the course of this program. I'll start with you, Dr. Marcel Simo. Is it time for a frantic effort to be made for every Cameroonian to first feel Cameroonian?
Je ne vais pas dire que c'est le temps, parce que mon chef de l'État ou alors le chef de l'État du Cameroun le dit si bien, très souvent, le Cameroun est un et indivisible. Au-delà de cette expression un et indivisible, il faut également savoir que nous le savons tous, le Cameroun est un peu comme l'Afrique en miniature. Donc c'est un pouvoir, c'est une richesse, cette variété culturelle que possède le Cameroun. Il a environ 250 ethnies à elle seule. Et toutes ces ethnies constituent, n'est-ce pas, un pouvoir, une richesse immense que le Cameroun devrait utiliser à bon escient. D'ailleurs, moi je vais peut-être vous surprendre, mais je dis, lorsqu'on parle par exemple de tribalisme, prenons un cas comme celui-là, on se rendra compte qu'au fond, à la base, les Camerounais ne sont pas tribalistes.
Oui.
Sinon, on va voir les mariages interculturels dans nos... Faites des tours dans les mairies tous les vendredis et les samedis. Vous verriez un Douala, un Sawa qui a épousé un Bamileke. Vous verriez un anglophone, comme on le dit très souvent, qui a épousé une Douala. Vous verriez un Si qui a épousé un Sa. Donc, c'est pas dans les gènes du Camerounais, l'esprit ou alors la fibre tribalistique. Non, c'est pas dans les gènes du Camerounais. Allons un peu dans la sphère culturelle, culinaire, pardon. Vous allez vous rendre compte, vous allez voir un Bamileke vous dit, moi j'adore le héros, moi j'adore le taro, moi j'adore ci, moi j'adore ça. Même s'il ne sait pas le cuisiner, mais il l'adore. Et ce sont ces éléments qui nous font comprendre que les Camerounais, entre eux, savent pertinemment qu'ils sont un et indivisibles. Mais maintenant, malheureusement, nous sommes au XXIe siècle et on commence à voir une montée très puissante de certaines divisions sociales qui se créent. Et simplement, moi je l'ai, en tant que sociologue, je m'en suis rendu compte que c'est le fruit de l'imagination de certains hommes politiques qui désirent utiliser cette fibre sociologique pour diviser, pour séparer, pour éloigner les Camerounais. Mais à la base, je vous dis, ils sont un et indivisibles.
C'est les politiciens qui font tout ça?
Oui, je pense que c'est le fruit de certains politiciens.
Mais la plupart des politiciens sont de votre parti, hein?
Non, ce que je veux dire, si vous voulez qu'on parle du rassemblement démocratique du peuple camerounais, regardez d'abord le premier concept, rassemblement. Je crois qu'au Cameroun, et ça sans m'en vanter ou alors sans me tromper, il n'y a pas un parti politique au Cameroun, ça je le dis avec tout le sourire possible, il n'y a pas un parti politique au Cameroun qui a l'esprit de rassemblement comme le RDPC.
Tout le monde veut être bien vu à Yaoundé, non?
Non, c'est pas forcément... Vous voyez que pour ceux qui sont bien vus, ou alors qui veulent être bien vus, très naturellement vont entrer dans ce que vous appelez aujourd'hui la transhumance politique, ou alors la prostitution politique, comme je l'ai dit sur un plateau ce matin. Donc, c'est des personnes qui vont entrer le matin et très tôt le soir, ils vont démissionner.
Ils savent que si je viens au RDPC, sûrement, je serai nommé, non?
Mais malheureusement, c'est pas ça. Est-ce que ça dit que tout le monde qui est au RDPC est nommé? Je veux bien savoir.
Tout le monde espère.
Non, on n'est pas dans l'espérance, mais on est dans le désir d'épouser, d'accepter une conviction. Et je crois que le RDPC est le meilleur parti qui incarne ce rassemblement-là.
Professor Mark Anthony, she says that she's talking about almost Cameroon is one indivisible. Is the question not turning around feeling Cameroonian? Is that not where we should start? Okay.
Not to politicize the whole issue, I want to begin by saying that one of the things that Africans in general do lack is identity. And as Cameroonians, we need to get to that place where we are able to forge an identity. For a very long period of time, I think our various dialects, or say national languages, were prohibited from being taught in our schools. It's just of recent that it is being encouraged, which from the very beginning when this nation was being established, I think there was supposed to be a national language which was supposed to become a language that was supposed to be officially instituted as the language that Cameroonians should speak before speaking French and English. If we had a particular language, for example, let's say we use Douala to speak, and maybe when you go to the Northwest, you take a language like Mubako or any other language, So or Kijom, you put it up and we use that as the official language to be, you discover that a lot of Cameroonians will start identifying themselves. But now, it is difficult to raise children and they get to accept their own personality and their own culture because we keep on talking English, French, English, French. We are more colonialized, even in the time when we are not supposed to be talking about colonialism. We are still so much built up with colonialism in our minds. Somebody will say, you are speaking but English now. Yes, I'm speaking English because that's the option that I had when I was studying. If I had the opportunity to study my dialect, as they call it, in the school, in the university, that would have been what I would have been speaking now. I remember, if you look at it critically, presently if you go to a country like Kenya, Swahili is one of their languages. When
you go to
Kagame,
you go to DR Congo, they'll speak the Lingala, yeah.
So when you go, Kagame, when he came up as a president, what he did is he annulled French from being an official language in his country, and he established Swahili. Swahili is the first language now that is spoken in Rwanda, and second by English. That is because he thought that he needs to build an identity and be able to stop the people from seeing themselves as Tutsis and this and that. So all those tribes, there must be something that should be able to identify all of us. And so first we talk of language, which is one of those things that, for example, today in Cameroon we are fighting, people are picking up arms and saying that this and that because of colonial language. English is one of the problems. French is the other problem. So we are fighting over colonial remains when we have our own, like she rightly said, Cameroon is a country with diversified cultures. Let's say you have different ethnic groups that are existing, over 250 in this same country.
Very complex.
Very complex. But we have a possibility to unite this. Already we are under an umbrella called Cameroon. And we could then get inside this, identify the various people that can work together. For example, I believe that if you take the people, Doualas, they have a language that is similar to that of the Bakosis, the Bakweres, even the Dian. If going down even to Kribi, they have their language is almost the same. And when you come, even the Basas can pick up some stuff from there. So you bring all this together and we say, okay, This is Cameroon. Let's take 1 or 2 languages. Let us learn them in school. It should be instituted in our institutions. That becomes what will make us become one. In fact, it becomes an identity. That is just language we are focusing on.
Oui, parce que ce qu'il dit est très important, parce que maintenant, les gens se disent que nous sommes francophones, juste parce qu'ils parlent langue.
Non,
ici, anglophone, parce que nous parlons. He's raising something.
Ce qu'il dit est pertinent, mais je peux le comprendre. C'est parce que je me suis rendu compte qu'il ne sait pas que Cameroun s'est déjà instauré. Vous voyez, cette diversité culturelle traduit la difficulté pour le gouvernement de pouvoir choisir une langue dans laquelle chacun va se représenter. Mais tenez-vous tranquille, peut-être vous ne le savez pas, à l'éducation de base par exemple, on a ce qu'on appelle aujourd'hui langue et culture nationale et on impose en fonction de chaque région. Et je crois que c'est perceptible aussi au secondaire. C'est-à-dire maintenant on se dit, puisqu'on a plus de 150 langues et cultures, on ne peut pas choisir une langue et dire, là, voici la langue qui va représenter valablement le Cameroun. Il faudrait que chacun s'identifie dans la langue qui va être exprimée. Alors, le gouvernement camerounais, alors le système éducatif a insisté plutôt sur les régions. On prend par exemple la région du littoral, où on a, comme il l'a si bien dit, les Douala. En bref, on les appelle les Sawa en général. Mais les Sawa, ils sont nombreux. On a l'Embo, on a le Sancho, même jusqu'à Kribi. Tout ça, on les appelle l'Embo, les Sawa. Donc, on dit, dans la région du littoral, la langue la langue apprise, enseignée à l'école, c'est le Sawa. On va dans la région de l'Ouest. Naturellement, on va prendre une langue parmi les kyrielles de langues qu'on obtient dans la région de l'Ouest. Donc, chaque région, je crois, sur le plan éducatif, a mis en place, n'est-ce pas, le cours portant sur la langue et culture nationale. Et ces langues-là sont choisies en fonction de la région dans laquelle se trouve l'enfant. J'insiste encore sur ce concept selon lequel je dis, les Camerounais, entre eux, n'ont pas un problème d'identité. Ça, je vous le dis très clairement. Les Camerounais n'ont pas un problème d'identité.
Est-ce qu'il n'est pas aussi important, Est-ce qu'il n'est pas important de s'identifier avec une langue nationale?
C'est vrai, on aurait bien pu, comme il a parlé du Swahili et tout.
Oui, mais qu'est-ce qui empêche?
Non, mais la particularité, c'est que les langues sont énormes et multiples au Cameroun. Et ça devrait constituer en fait une richesse. L'élément important pour nous, parce que à vous entendre parler, j'ai l'impression que vous voulez dédouaner aussi la responsabilité de nous, les parents. Est-ce que vous savez qu'il y a des ménages où monsieur et madame se sont mariés, mais sont de cultures ou de langues différentes, et que les enfants ne s'expriment qu'en français?
Okay.
Voilà également un problème.
We have been joined by Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick, we are talking about forging a real Cameroonian identity where Cameroonians will feel real Cameroonian wherever they find themselves. Increasing call for a revision of our system of education that focuses more on Cameroon history so we can have a better mastery of the different peoples of Cameroon.
No, the problem is not with history.
Okay.
And the problem is not language is okay. You know, when you're looking at what are the 2-3 things that I can do and then get the country going, you know, bring people to the core. You will realize, yes, you can teach history the whole day, you can teach all the national languages the whole day. That's not what is going to do it. At the end of the day, people need to meet their needs. And if you have to create a nation where people meet their needs. And if people have not been meeting their needs in the country, we should find out why are people not meeting their needs.
Okay.
If we are correcting our education, fine, it's great. We can teach 2 languages in the whole nation, or 3 even. You can take a language, a full-day language up there. You can take Douala language here, and you take Mungaka over there, and then it will be okay. But that still will not solve the problems. The problems of this country are that we have prepared a very nice stew with some chicken, but some ingredients are missing. And if you don't put those ingredients in the stew, do whatever you want, it will not be tasty. What are the ingredients? We tell a lot of lies. So, you remember last time we were dealing with our elites who lie a lot. The problem, if the country has gone down the hill, is because we have elites who tell a lot of lies. We need that truth and love should come back to this country. When these two elements come, many of those other little things will just fall in. But truth and love are the things that are missing from the nation. And if we wanted to add to that package, we would say the education is wrong, not the education of history, the education that children have so that they can change water into wine, that capacity to be able to create wealth and create opportunities for themselves. Those things are missing. So everybody is a beggar, everybody is asking children to give them sex to get something. So it's a crazy environment. But the bottom line is that we have elites who tell lies.
Yeah, we have elites who tell lies, but we are talking about coming out with an identity, a Cameroonian identity, like you raised earlier on. Don't you also think that Cameroonians don't know their history? Because you can only valorize your brother or sister who is from the north if you really know about him. You can valorize the persons who come from the east if you know their full potentials, because the tendency would be for you to simplify.
No, I don't see that. I don't see that as a problem. When you have people calling others mouton, sardinard, tontina, anglophone, then now you have some chiefs coming up. You those Bamenda people will kill you. Then the Bamenda people say, you down there, you're supposed to. It is not, the problem is not that we don't know the history and we don't know these people. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that something has gone wrong that is fundamentally wrong, and everybody is fighting his brother. You know, it was the other day that we were talking here when I was giving you this experiment of buying rice and fish for 10 children. Did we mention it here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same phenomenon manifesting in a different way. If you don't solve the problems of the people so they can meet their needs, you can teach them, tell them about brotherhood from morning to evening, will not work. So it is yes, these people are brothers. Then when you are finished with the lecture, let them have something to eat.
Yeah. Mangeons ensemble.
Okay, mangeons ensemble. Yeah, but isn't it? Are you people saying that it is not necessary for the children to be taught their history?
No,
is that what we are concluding here?
As an individual, I can't actually say that it's not necessary to teach history. It is necessary.
When you look at what students study today, Dr. Nick, they study Mongo Park, they study Egypt, they study the First World War, they studied the Crimean War.
Yes.
Why not take time to have a...
Those things do matter a lot. When a person, sometimes most of us, we might not take this into consideration, but the past of a person holds the person's future. And most of the times we feel like it is nothing, but it has a lot to do. Once I am able to understand my origin, understand my base, and understand how it used to happen in the past, it is possible for me to forge a future for myself. I grew from a background where I was made to believe more about Europe. And everything I want to think about is Europe. And every time I want to do something, I want to compare it with Africa, my country, with Europe. I will not want to compare it with what is. So I think that if we get to teach our children not only the dialect, but the history of our people.
Especially the great kingdoms there.
Yes, where we are coming from, how long we had been before the white man came to colonize us, what our parents used to do. I always make this statement. Before the Europeans came, we had an economic economic institutions in Africa. And our people in the various kingdoms had a way they were educating their children.
Yes.
And this educational system that used to be was an educational system that teaches children to become practical. So they were forming professionals. They were not training tourists who only receive information and are unable to create jobs. Every child that was formed during that period of time had the capacity to create jobs, implying that they will not go begging. And that is why at the end of the day, before the Europeans came, Africans were not beggars. They were not begging. We were satisfied because we had what it takes to live for ourselves. Today, the concept of poverty has been instituted. The concept of hunger has been brought. The concept of begging has been brought. All those things are strange to African people. And when you come back to Cameroon as a nation, our coming together as different tribes under this canopy, Cameroon, has brought our diversities. We do have great diversities which could be harnessed and used positively for job creation. I mean, our culture could be turned into an entrepreneurial tool. But because we do not even know these various cultural benefits, we don't know how to use them for our good.
Okay.
So it is necessary to identify what was working and teach the children. Not just giving them whole lumps of history, but identify what was working and teach it so that they can use it to make what will work for Cameroon.
Cameroun, Afrique en miniature, est-ce qu'elle est reflétée? L'Afrique, c'est le Sahel, c'est le Maghreb, c'est la forêt.
Le Cameroun,
oui,
à tous ces éléments-là.
Oui, mais est-ce que ça se reflète? Parce qu'on voit le Maghreb là-bas, non, c'est développé. L'Afrique du Sud, c'est développé. Mais est-ce qu'on ressent ça au Cameroun?
Non, je voudrais qu'on prenne sous un angle plus.
Non, ce que je veux.
Permettez, je vais y arriver.
Ok.
J'ai entendu le professeur Ma parler de l'enseignement, de la connaissance qu'on inculque aux enfants. Mais il le sait très bien que la connaissance, elle est universelle. La connaissance, elle est globalisante. La connaissance, elle est générale. On ne peut pas spécifier, n'est-ce pas, le niveau de communication qu'on va inculquer aux enfants. Maintenant, parlant de l'histoire, de la connaissance de son histoire, la genèse même de ses origines, c'est important. Mais déjà, on le fait. Commençons à partir de l'école primaire. Moi, je voudrais bien qu'on y aille là-dessus. On le fait. À l'école primaire, vous allez voir en histoire, on va apprendre aux enfants les résistances à la colonisation allemande. On va apprendre aux enfants la crête négrière. Je vous ai entendu parler de la Première et la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. C'est important parce que le Cameroun a participé à ces différentes guerres. Il est important qu'on dise à l'enfant comment est-ce que le Cameroun s'est retrouvé dans la guerre et comment est-ce qu'elle s'y investit. Non, c'est important ça. Je suis très sérieux là-dessus. Donc, on devrait en parler. C'est des connaissances. L'enfant évolue et les connaissances se suivent progressivement. Donc, même au secondaire, toutes ces notions sont enseignées. On va parler de Oumniobé, de l'UPC, de tout ce qui va avec. Toutes ces leçons, je vous assure, sont enseignées dans les programmes du primaire et du secondaire.
Mais ça, c'est la politique.
D'ailleurs, même à
je parle de l'histoire camerounaise, de l'histoire des gens de chez vous. Est-ce que les enfants...
Non, maintenant,
je vais y arriver. Il y a des guerriers chez vous.
Je vais y arriver.
Oui.
Maintenant, vous allez vous rendre compte que parler maintenant l'histoire propre à chaque enfant, il faudrait à un moment, et disons-nous la vérité, que chaque parent s'y implique. Que chaque parent s'y implique. Et c'est ce que les parents, nous, ne faisons pas aujourd'hui. Le gouvernement ou alors l'État va inculquer ces valeurs de manière générale. C'est-à-dire survoler par endroits. Maintenant, il faudrait que chaque parent inculque certaines valeurs à l'enfant. Moi, j'ai entendu le docteur parler tout à l'heure et j'ai ressenti, à moins que je me sois trompée, qu'en principe, le véritable problème se situe au niveau de l'éducation et de la culture que nous inculquons à nos enfants. Et ces deux valeurs-là sont d'abord données par nous, les parents. Il y a des valeurs qu'on inculque aux enfants. Mais l'éducation, c'est... On le fait comprendre que le citoyen lambda, Y, c'est ton frère, c'est ton Camerounais. Par conséquent, il mérite le respect.
Parlons du nez. Il y a une histoire du nez. Cherchez les historiens du nez, ils font un livre et qu'on rende ça obligatoire à tous les enfants du nez de le faire.
Oui, il y en a, puisqu'il y a déjà le Bundjumba, il y a même des versions, des choses écrites en langue de chez moi. Heureusement, vous avez choisi où je me retrouve. Il y en a. Mais maintenant, je dis, les parents devraient s'impliquer.
Est-ce qu'il y a un livre qui parle de votre histoire, parce que les enfants doivent le savoir, non? Oui, et que les enfants du centre puissent aussi savoir votre histoire.
Il faut simplement chercher. Il y a des documents. Il y a des documents. La preuve, lorsqu'on nous parle des sources de l'histoire, on nous fait allusion aux sources muettes. Oui. Il y en a. Il faudrait simplement que les parents orientent les enfants vers la connaissance et essayent, n'est-ce pas, de spécifier le type de connaissance qu'ils voudraient que leurs enfants acquièrent, en plus de ce qu'on leur donne à l'école.
Now, we are talking about forging an identity for a Cameroonian. What should that not also be defining who a Cameroonian civil servant is? When they talk of a Cameroonian civil servant, something should quickly come to our mind.
I don't know. So you're confusing me now. So when you talk of a Cameroonian civil servant, who else are you going to talk about? The Cameroonian. Okay, let's name the categories there.
No, we are going to look at the role. When they talk of a Cameroonian traditional ruler, something should come to your mind.
Okay.
Yeah, but now a civil servant in Cameroon, should they carry a value, an identity that if they find themselves out of the country, the way they carry themselves and the way they do things, they can easily say this should be a Cameroonian.
Right. If you, I mean, the question you are asking, I would like to reframe it so that I can rephrase it so I can answer it. See, this is it. What are those values? Imagine Cameroon to be some kind of a flag, imaginary flag, some flag. Okay. Say when you hold something like this, you know, what do people see around it? Those values that say yes, that is it.
Yeah.
And then. You know, you've seen soldiers going to war. They raise the flag, and everybody is on that flag. Okay, it's a certain spirit. It's a spirit, and everybody puts their heart in it, puts their life in it, puts their blood in it. So, what is it? Forget about civil servant and another different day and so on. What is it that we should have in Cameroon, where everybody looks up like this? You see, like when Mila and the Etofis were playing, everybody say, "Yes, that is it. That is it. That is." So
les emblèmes nationaux.
Yes. What are those things that, and those emblems? When they talk about emblems, those emblems should evoke in you a spirit, something that you are ready to die for, and that thing is called patriotism. Good. So the question is, what is it that we have put on the mountaintop for everybody to see and say, yes, this is Cameroon, and every child is ready to die for it? That's where the problem is. It does not exist.
Okay, it does not exist.
Yeah, but yes, tell me if you know it.
No, you. How do we forge a real Cameroonian identity?
By looking, yes, by creating that thing.
That's my question. I'm asking you, Dr. Nick, that what is it? That identity, that in the civil service, when you find yourself somewhere, just by the way you do the things, they can say, this is a Cameroonian civil servant. Yeah.
Okay, I started off by saying that we Cameroonians, we tell lies. That's the biggest problem. My view as symbol is lies telling. It's crazy, honestly. I'm laughing about it, but it's a serious matter. We are so corrupt. We have values that identify us as Cameroonians, but they are the wrong values, you see. We need to gather those wrong values. Honestly, because when you say a Cameroonian, number one, you are next to Nigeria in 419, so all those things. So we need to recreate a Cameroon with positive values where everybody, you know, is driven to this. But we have those values that instead make us ashamed of who we are. Like I was saying, we need to reformat everything, come up with a system. We have to start with our elites. The people, I don't know, we might find time to define what elite means, but the elites have to have the right mindset to be able to lead their people. You know, like you are talking to Madame here, she's the elite from Bangante, you are an elite from Bafut, I'm from Kamer, from all this. Every elite, that is anybody who can hold an idea and develop it, should have that mindset. And then to say, our children, let us all go in this direction. Number one, you should have respect. We should all look for that thing that gives us respect for the nation. We should have respect for the nation. And people are going to respect the nation if the leaders in the nation respect the nation. When children, everybody begin to see that the leaders have the nation above everything, then people will start to respect the nation. But when you have leaders and some people who think that they're above the law, then they begin to damage the nation. And when you have leaders and you have elites and so on who tell a lot of lies, then, and they always do things for personal interest and not for common good, then nothing works. So we have those two ingredients that are missing. Let us ask ourselves, what do we do to bring truth and love in whatever we do in our nation? As you begin to do that, then you will begin to see that that other child that is sitting in class is not your biological child, but it's your child. That other child that came looking for a job, don't ask her for sex. This other one and so on. We begin to see that when you are hurting those children, you are hurting yourself. So we get to a point where we see where the Ubuntu spirit, when the Ubuntu spirit comes to life, the nation will live.
Okay. You are because I am. Now, Africa in miniature. He is, I don't know whether he's dodging from how a typical Cameroonian civil servant should look like. I'm talking about forging an identity. If you are a Cameroonian civil servant, should it not start with competence? That is, you are taken into the public service because you are competent, you are diligent, you are bilingual, you are this. Are these not certain things that must be made compulsory for somebody that can, because civil servants are like ambassadors of the state now?
Mr. Leo, human beings are not robots. And for the fact that for a very long period of time, the very core values of our nation had been corrupted. The kind of people we will raise will be corrupt. If we have a system where if you have to become a civil servant, you need to buy your way into civil service, you don't expect that that person should come out and be that straight. Before in the early 90s, 1970s, up to the early 90s, those who were in civil service had a different mindset.
Yeah, but is that not what I'm talking about here now?
That's what I'm saying. I want to come to. They had a different mindset because the kind of values they taught them, patriotism, which is love for nation. They gave them values that permitted them to reflect the nation. Accountability was part of it. Why? Because what they had came to them by merit. But when that was removed, especially, you know, when the whole idea of regional balance came into place, was actually instituted at a high force. It was in existence during the days of Aejo. But when President Mr. Biya came to power, to an extent, there was a laxity that came along with it. And this brought a situation where individuals went off balance. And meritocracy becomes something you need to buy with money before you are given something. So such persons were already corrupted. And so if that needs to change, we need to remove these people, this thing. And that is why I want to say, like Dr. Nick said, there's need to begin with the elites. I would rather say there's need to go back to our kids. Because to form the next group of elites, we need to start forming our kids with the values that will permit them to become respectful to the nation. We need to give them those values that will permit them to see the flag and see Cameroon as in fact, all that they need. So we need to go back, inculcate those values in the curriculum that permit them to find that. And as Dr. Simo was saying, we need to go back to our own homes, because the first classroom is the house. We teach the children these respectable values. Love, that's one of the first things that Dr. Nick said here. Love is a value that should be inculcated in every Cameroonian. When that is done, we need to also get into a place where we teach Cameroonians that it is not the government that makes you to eat. You must become self-sustaining, implying that we must go into teaching what we call entrepreneurship at its base, where individuals must learn to know they are contributors to the society, not just receivers, where we get to understand that we are supposed to be there to act, not to receive. When the problem is that we have the wrong mindset. And if I go to say that is because of colonial education, some will say we are blaming the colonialists, but that's the kind of education that they brought, where we have to keep on depending on the government in order to live. Okay, and we must change that and start depending on ourselves. We must get to teach our children to know that they are supposed to be contributors to the community and society, rather than just depending on the community and society.
Okay, we have just been joined by Fcfa, who is the Undersecretary for Communication for the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, the CRM. Good evening, Fcfa. And my first question to you is, what should we do to forge a real Cameroonian identity today?
to me, we have only one way out.
Good evening, Fatah.
Good evening, Mr. Kumblenat. Good evening to the fellow panelists. Thanks very much. You know that when the head is boiling with so many things, sometimes. But then, greetings to all those who are watching us right away, and the good friends from Limbe 2 Council, where I'm just returning from the council session that just took place today. Well, away from the council session of Limbe 2 Council, I think we should be looking at for the way to forge a real Cameroonian identity. I think that, I just got Professor Mark Anthony talking about, entrepreneurship and all the like, I think we're beating around the bush.
Okay.
We are beating around the bush because for any country to move, the governance policy has a role to play. Let's not rigmarole around the corner. It is but true that you could pick up hard economic moves and you make it, but how many people can take that move to make it? We have a handful of entrepreneurs who have been succeeding, but the only bitter part of their success is that they don't tell us the hurdles they go through. They present the story to Cameroonians as if everything is on beds of roses and flower, which is not so for Cameroonian society. And so you begin to realize that they will not tell you the number of taxes that come, they will not tell you the number of bottlenecks that follow the businesses that you find them seemingly flourishing. And you realize that if we're moving in an economic friendly environment, the kind of hurdles and stress some successful business people go through will not be the way they find. This is in terms of what we call comparative business analysis. If you go to Kenya, for example, and as you are around Mombasa, you get to realize that when you begin a business in Mombasa, for example, it could be a call box, so to say, and whatever I begin around the road, you discover that most of the times you have what you call the small, medium-sized enterprise department over there. Now, what happens is that sometimes you write a small project and you forge it first through your parliamentarian in that local area, or you send it through a senator in that area, which sometimes they move as far as pushing it forward towards the government department in charge of that. And before you know, you start getting some subventions. But now, in the case of Cameroon, we don't find it that way. Now, how do we forge a real Cameroonian identity? Real Cameroonian identity can only be forged when those in Yaoundé leave power. Any CPD person, any central committee member, if they leave power, listen, because the governance policy is in a way that does not put in place that real Cameroonian identity. We are talking about hate speech. Bilingualism Commission is there. No comments, they are mute. We are talking about people who talk about hate speech up and down. And the laws are clear. In Cameroon, we have strong persons and not stronger institutions. I told person that if somebody like Donald Trump was in Africa, he should not have left power. The way he's behaving. But because of the stronger institutions in America, he is forced to leave power whether he likes it or not by January 20th. The law is clear. The machinery works.
The law says he has to leave power.
Slowly. No, when you already been defeated, no matter the complaints they put in place, not so, the mechanism is grinding slowly moving towards January 20th.
What can you and I do to forge a new
The only thing we can do, Mr. Liu, first, you and I have very limited role to play. I say very limited. Means the only limited role we have is to preach the issue of unity. But when you preach the aspect of unity, and there's no accompanying law to enforce that, you and I will be singing a song. I have said there is a law. Cameroon is one of the best countries in the world that has written laws. Madam of the CPD will understand that what I'm talking about. If you want to quote Cameroon written laws, if you quote from here and go to Canada, it is superb. The problem is the level of application. If you and I are not forging the real Cameroonian identity and talking about hate speech, I'm sure we would have been in Kondenge by now. But the question is, why would some people do that? And they only receive light cautions from the government officials, and the issue dies down a natural death. Now, you, Mr. Leo, are from my 16. I will tell you, because I was on the ground, that some destructions took place in my 16 and my 14 on the day of the hate speech. Some persons who were selling these traditional wares from the northwest region, the place was destroyed and almost set ablaze, and the person fought with them until the petrol poured on the person who had that particular business. Jesus. 2 bikes were burnt. As we speak now, nobody has said those people should be remanded in custody to pay for those charges. These are consequences of Cameroonian identity. The CPD regime in Yaoundé stays mute. And tomorrow they will say, we're talking about national unity. They are not serious. All of them, CPDM and Yaoundé, when they go on leave, You and I will preach nationality will make sense. If not, we shall be singing a song from now till thy kingdom come. And the old guards will keep on promoting disunity in the guise of national unity. Thank you.
Yeah, but we have to move forward now because people have to leave. Now, Dr. Maxel, let's look at the notion of patriotism. When you see an American, the first thing that comes to his mind is the American flag. They are so proud of their nation. Are Cameroonians truly proud of their nation? What is it that we should do that we should be proud of Cameroon? Because almost everybody, you see, we go when our brothers go to America, they say that was our country. When they are in France, they say votre pays là.
Je crois que vous commencez à comprendre à l'entame lorsque je disais qu'il y a des discours politiques qui traduisent la division et la séparation, l'éloignement des Camerounais. Parce que les Camerounais en eux-mêmes, ça j'insiste encore là-dessus, ont cette fibre de solidarité.
Oui, je dis pas la solidarité,
vraiment mécanique.
Je
vais revenir,
okay.
je vais revenir. C'est ça le véritable problème.
Okay.
Et on ne peut pas aujourd'hui, au jour d'aujourd'hui, réclamer l'identité camerounaise en mettant en avant l'excuse selon laquelle le gouvernement doit déguerpir. Non, soyons sérieux lorsqu'on est des questions sociales aussi pertinentes. Le véritable problème se situe au niveau de la culturation et de l'éducation. C'est de ça qu'il est question. Les Camerounais en eux-mêmes, j'insiste encore là-dessus, ne sont pas tribalistes, ne sont pas divisés, ne sont pas éloignés l'un de l'autre. Non, c'est pas de ça qu'il est question. Mais c'est qu'à un moment, nous, les parents, nous avons oublié, nous sommes éloignés de nos responsabilités et du coup on laisse la société, les pères, les individus éduquer nos enfants et on obtient ce qu'on obtient aujourd'hui, une violence qui se définit, un regard très neutre vis-à-vis d'autrui et une perception, n'est-ce pas, contraire de toutes les personnes qui ne pensent pas comme vous. Mais en réalité, le Camerounais comme l'Africain a en lui ces éléments-là, ces fibres culturelles liées à la solidarité, à l'entraide, à la disponibilité ou alors au regard d'autrui comme son frère. Là, ce sont des valeurs propres à l'Afrique. D'ailleurs, on le dit souvent, l'Occident est caractérisé par son individualisme total. Mais l'Africain, lui, il est né dans un espace de socialisation purement mécanique. Ça, je vous le dis. Maintenant, lorsque vous voulez parler du patriotisme, par exemple, mais on a des patriotes au Cameroun. On a des patriotes
Est-ce que les Camerounais aiment vraiment leur pays?
Non, les Camerounais aiment leur pays. Oui. Ils sont simplement manipulés par des esprits et des instincts politiques avérés qui sont censés, qui sont prêts à tout mettre en jeu pour défendre leur intérêt personnel. C'est de ça qu'il est question. Mais l'amour du pays, l'amour de la patrie, on en a, on peut les citer. Lorsqu'on voit nos lions indomptables, qu'est-ce qu'on dira?
Parce que je voulais en venir.
Voilà une équipe, un espace où tous les Camerounais se retrouvent.
Je vous relance, madame. C'est là où je voulais en venir parce que est-ce que le Cameroun a su se construire autour du football parce que c'est ça qui fait la fierté, comme les Brésiliens, ou soit c'est un pays producteur de, je sais pas, oil producing nation, an agricultural producing nation, like cocoa producing nation, like Côte d'Ivoire. Have we identified what we are unique in, and then make frantic efforts to be the best, so that when they talk of this, Cameroun comes to mind?
Non, nous avons beaucoup d'éléments avec lesquels le Cameroun peut s'identifier. N'allons pas loin, même la musique. Même la musique.
Mais est-ce qu'elle est valorisée?
Même la musique.
Est-ce qu'elle est valorisée?
Il est décédé, mais l'art ne meurt pas. L'art ne meurt pas. On a celui qui est décédé récemment de Covid.
Oui, Manu Dibango.
Manu Dibango, merci. Qui est là, qui a porté le flambeau du Cameroun dans tout le monde entier. Nous avons des Charlotte Dipanda aujourd'hui, n'allons même pas loin. Il y en a qui sont auprès de nous. Le Camerounais a des éléments qui peuvent l'identifier partout où il se retrouve.
Madame,
et ça, vous le savez.
Est-ce que c'est pas la politique que vous faites?
Non.
Avec
je crois que parlons de la musique.
Non,
parlons de la musique.
Non. Docteur. Moi, je dis que
de la musique.
Moi, je dis que on a les Manu Dibango décédés. Les Charlotte Dipanda
qui sont là. Je crois qu'ils sont plus nombreux encore.
Nous sommes doués en musique, en football. Est-ce qu'on on s'est capitalisé sur ça, donc donner plus de soutien aux musiciens, comme ça beaucoup plus les Camerounais peuvent s'en sortir et puis le football, parce que c'est ça aussi qui fait la fierté nationale.
D'un pays.
Oui, est-ce qu'on...
Non, je crois que vraiment, soyons sérieux et laissons la politique où elle est. Je crois que l'équipe nationale, les Lions indomptables, reflètent même la pluralité des identités camerounaises. Tout le monde se retrouve là-dedans. La preuve en est, lorsqu'on vous dit qu'il y a un match de foot, peut-être l'éclat ou alors l'intensité n'est plus le même, mais rassurez-vous, toutes les rues de la ville sont pratiquement vides, parce que les Camerounais veulent voir, parce que les Camerounais veulent savoir ce qu'ils vont faire. Maintenant, qu'ils vont gagner ou qu'ils vont perdre, ça dépend maintenant du comportement que chacun va adopter. Mais face aux lions indomptables du Cameroun, je crois que tous les Camerounais sont d'accord avec eux et les accompagnent à leur manière. C'est pourquoi je dis, on ne peut pas dire...
Docteur,
oui.
c'est pas ça ma question. Hein. Vous faites de la politique, ma question.
Non, je vous en prie. À moins que je ne vous comprends pas.
Non. J'ai dit que...
Oui.
Est-ce que l'État camerounais investit suffisamment sur les musiciens, les footballeurs, pour que ça porte de plus en plus?
Si l'État camerounais n'investissait pas sur les footballeurs, moi je n'entendrais pas parler des signatures de 50 millions. Moi j'entends souvent on parle de ça. À moins que je me trompe. Je ne suis pas très fan de foot, mais j'entends souvent des gens me dire, les Lions, professeur, à moins que je me trompe, que les Lions ont émargé 50 millions, 25 millions, 30 millions. C'est une marque de reconnaissance du travail accompli. Donc vous n'allez pas me dire qu'il n'y a pas d'investissement là derrière.
Oui.
Yes, when Madame Simon was speaking, she said something, and I thought we should go over it.
Okay.
And I wish I could ask her a question, because when you asked her about patriotism, she said something that kind of like caused some kind of waves in my brain. Patriotism is not something that belongs to footballers, to ministers or something. Patriotism
everybody.
Now that's what I wanted to hear from you.
It's everybody.
If you have a country where you are citing patriot, something is wrong. A country is a mass movement of everybody, the born, the unborn, the little children, everybody moving forward in one direction because they all love their country. But if you're going to love the country because you are a minister, or there was one funny time there was a minister who was asked about patriotism. He said that he sang the national anthem. Patriotism is not by singing. It's not when you sing a national anthem. It's not a sign that you're patriotic. Patriotic is you think country, you dwell in the country from morning to evening, you would do anything to make sure it's working at your little level. Even if you are a shoe mender, you are doing that shoe mending, and you are and everything is about right. But so we cannot, if you are going to talk about patriotic Cameroonians and you can count them on your fingertips, there's a problem.
There's a problem, but the question I ask is, are we patriotic enough?
We are not patriotic. If you have to count them, then we are not patriotic. We are not patriotic. Not even ministers. We are not patriotic. Nobody loves the country. If we are patriotic, nobody stealing from the country.
Si vous me permettez, je veux simplement, peut-être je n'ai pas simplement poussé le raisonnement plus loin, mais l'esprit de patriotisme devrait en principe être ancré dans tous les Camerounais. C'est une logique réelle. C'est une logique réelle.
Oui.
Cet esprit devait être ancré dans tous les Camerounais.
Comment on le fait alors?
Mais malheureusement, maintenant, il y a des politiques, j'insiste là-dessus, qui détournent cet amour que le Camerounais lambda devrait... Parce que le patriotisme commence par le respect des institutions, par exemple. Le patriotisme se manifeste par le désir de faire son travail, quelle que soit la qualité du travail, mais de le faire de la plus belle des manières. Mais il y a des politiques qui amènent les uns ou les autres à défier les autorités, à ne pas respecter les institutions sous prétexte de ils doivent dégager. Voilà des personnes sur lesquelles on devrait tirer parce que cela n'inculque pas l'esprit de patriotisme aux citoyens.
Mais je sais bien, madame, que lorsque vous parlez là, j'aimerais vous poser la question de savoir si c'est d'autres partis politiques qui n'ont pas la truc politique, qui ne sont pas patriotiques, ou bien, et lorsque vous dites qu'il y a les gens qui ne respectent pas les autorités ou des institutions, il faut bien comprendre que le respect c'est fait de part et d'autre. Les institutions et les autorités respectent les gens et les gens le respectent.
No. We have former ministers who are in prison. It's because they invest now. Yeah.
Mais en tant qu'Africains, nous le savons. Le respect, moi, ma grand-mère m'avait dit, respecte les aînés. Ça, c'est ce que je connais.
Okay.
En Afrique, on m'a dit, on doit respecter les aînés.
Yeah, but this issue
Quoi qu'il fasse, je respecte d'abord l'aîné.
Yeah, the issue of patriotism. What should the country do to at least invest in something that can sell Cameroon better, where wherever you find yourself in the world, they see you, they identify you with this thing. For example, we have countries that are identified easily because they are very heavy crude producers in the world. Côte d'Ivoire has invested a lot in cocoa production, and they can stand tall in that domain. And we have in ammunitions, Russia will come to your mind, and American. What is Cameroon? What can Cameroon say? We are masters in this.
If you ask that question, it will be clean that it is clear for you and I that there is nothing that we can uniquely point out about Cameroonians.
No, we are bilingual.
Canada is bilingual, so there's no uniqueness in that. But I believe that Cameroon can forge out something that will make a difference. Like I said from the very beginning, I think that we need to go back into re-educating Cameroonians on those cultural values that I heard her naming. We begin with, we need to respect not just the elders, but as we say, respect is mutual. We need to go back teaching that. Not only teaching that, we need to get back to the place where we reconstitute, because even in governance in Cameroon, what we call accountability is lost. So we need to bring that again into the governance system, where somebody can stay in office. Like I remember Kmer, he used to be a minister and once director of communications. He's of late, I think he died, I think this year. Kmer told me a story once that in his time as the director, manager of the CRTV in Yaoundé, there's something that happened. He was given money. He used that money during his period of time, and he had to, at the end of the year, he had to go and give back balance. And the minister cornered him and told him to send him part of that money and keep part. He refused, and he had to put it back in the treasury. That is something that is missing.
Yeah, but yeah, that ties with what I asked earlier on, the identity of a Cameroonian civil servant.
That is what he did. So I earlier said, I answered your question and said we had been corrupted.
Yes.
Because it used to be. Corruption has come in and destroyed it. So we need to go back and re-inculcate it. If a man could walk, then in his the budget that he had to use for the year, he used it until there was enough balance. He took it back to the National Treasury. That is to tell you, there were some guys who were working before who had love for their country.
The nation first.
The nation first. And that is something we need to copy and reteach and reinstitute in every facet of our nation. If that is done, where people are able to be accountable, it means that you can't take office without first of all declaring your assets. Because once you do that, when you are leaving, we can know whether you have done, you stole or it's not. Arresting people and keeping in the prisons like we have today is proof enough that we lack those values of accountability. So there is need for those values to be reinculcated into Cameroonians.
Okay.
And not only in civil servants. Because I will be sincere to tell you this, Mr. Liu. At times, even a father and wife are in the house, they are unable to be truthful to one another. There's infidelity right in the home. What do you expect that the children should learn in such a home? And so we must go back to reinstituting those values that make us love one another. We are truthful to one another. There is, like a doctor said, there is need for truth to enter back into the system.
Now, Doctor, he's talking about teaching almost everybody. But I'm sure teaching everybody will require going back to nursery, primary schools.
No.
But no.
Education at home.
Yes, but
At home.
at home, doctor. Now,
Because the school is instruction. Education at home. It's important.
okay. But now, we have fathers who are MPs today. The National Assembly, there are senators, we even have grandpas there. They also need education, because we are talking about forging a Cameroonian identity, an identity where you are given money, you use it, and you take back. We have check mechanisms in the country. We have the National Assembly, we have the Senate, we have CONAC, and that. How do we get them to get their jobs so that a Cameroonian civil servant or a Cameroonian contractor knows that we have this mechanism that is following up whatever we are doing, because they need to be forced to do that?
You see, a moment ago you asked the question, what is that thing that identifies the Cameroonian or the Cameroonian civil service? And we would say that when they say a Cameroonian civil service, the first thing, number one, is that they are irresponsible. And many of them are very irresponsible. They are rude, very, very rude. And they have no respect for anybody. And they are corrupt. And the corruption has gone to the extent that, even if you put CONAC everywhere, at the end of the day you realize that even CONAC itself is corrupt. Yeah, and the judges are corrupt. Everybody is kind of like corrupt. So these are the things that are messing us up. And we have to, when we summarize, we've been saying a lot of things. When I started off by saying that 2 ingredients are missing from the soup, it's truth. Truth. What is truth? Once you have understood truth, you realize that if we can teach people to be truthful, then everybody, truth is like that lighthouse, that bulb that is shining. And if everybody begins to walk towards that light and does things that they are proud of, then the characters of the people will be great. Then you will just naturally love each other, and you don't have to go behind people to see whether they are stealing or not. The human being is already very corrupt, and if you leave him without giving him some sense of value, the corruption will never get better. So what you are saying is, how do we teach people the values of truth and love? Is very, very important. And I would like to say that it's not because somebody is a big man that you can trust him. No, if you trust any big person, you trust him to your own peril. Because many people, you will see a lot of thieves, they will be in a suit and so on and have a gendarme behind them, and they're thieves. So trust nobody. And what we are saying is, we need to get down to the basics and see how we can get this this thing inculcated into people. And probably that will start from somewhere where the government, the prime minister or somebody takes things seriously, okay, and begins to put in place mechanisms for respect. For instance, okay, like when I think it was Madame, when she was talking, I was meditating. We have our funds over there, and when Pa Achidi was the prime minister, he did something so that he corrupted the palaces so that the funds started to lose their respect.
Yeah, that's true.
But and then we have dwindled the respect of the fund to an extent where we now craft something for them in the civil service and say they are auxiliaries and then we now put them under the DO. So when the DO comes to the village, every fund is trampling on funds. We have to get to a place where even the prime minister shows respect to the third class fund. Because of that, he incarnates culture.
No, he comes from a village. Now, you are coming from a village.
Yes. What I'm trying to say is that, what are we exactly going to do? We follow the civil service organogram. Are you getting me? Where the fund is seen as the auxiliary of the SDO, so he is a nobody. You start defining him from that point. But you need some people in authority. Let's say the prime minister, where during occasions you come down and bow before the funds, not because you are small, but you are not respecting that fund. You are respecting the people. Are you getting me? Because the fund is the people, the culture, and so on. So restitute that thing that was taken away from them.
You are already answering a question that I had for Mr. because I'm saying that we are redefining the true Cameroonian identity. When we talk of the chief of the Southwest, the chief in the South region, the fund in the Northwest region, or the chiefs in the West region, when we talk of them, what should be their status in Cameroon vis-a-vis administrators, political elite?
Well, their status is supposed to be that which warrants them to be part of administration and not auxiliary. And not auxiliary to the administration. I mean, part of administration. Now, you realize that when we talk about all of this, you know, the regime in Yaoundé carefully worked out plans to disgrace these our chiefs and funds as per se. First, they put in place politics. They ward most of them into politics. Most of the funds are central committee members of the CPDM, and so they've made them now to become puppets for them to be dangling with them the way they like.
But some are also militants of the CRM now.
Yes, some are, and the one who was militant of CRM was suspended. You should know that. Minat suspended the one who was a member of the CRM, as I speak now.
Okay.
Does that tell you democracy? Oh, no. So that is the system. So when you look at the kangaroo system, they operate in a lackadaisical manner that tells you that the regime has expired already. Now, what you realize is simple. If you look at all I talk about the funds and all the like, you could remember that the same regime and the party itself that Madam Doctor is here talking about is that very regime that of recent some months ago was at the forefront of xenophobic aspects in the South region against the Bamums. We know what happened. Destruction was done, and some persons were arrested, and they said that they'll be tried till today. That case died a natural death. Before we go another situation in Buea, it is now dying a natural death. So with the issues of Cameroonian identity and all the like, the regime in place is the master planner of the division in the name of unity. Now, for the issues of the fund, you come to realize that if you look at West Cameroon before, look at the House of Chiefs as we were talking before, the period where we are, and the House of Chiefs as of now, or the Chiefs, let's leave House of Chiefs in particular, or the funds, they are two different things. Why do we say so? You realize that a normal brigade commander or a normal gendarmerie officer can issue a convocation to a fund. And if you come there, they have all the right to remain in custody. Procedures just go like that. So you realize that the moment you are not aligned, but if you belong to the ruling class, for example, there are some procedures because that very fund with alienation to the central committee can cause you your transfer, can cause you your punishment. So you discover that Yaoundé has carefully made in a way that if you want to survive as per se, if you want to dance the tune of the regime, first dance to the regime of the ruling party. Then they'll begin to think of where to keep you.
Now we are looking for an identity for our chiefs and funds. And what should be that identity?
The identity for the chiefs and the fund first cannot be sorted out now until the regime leaves place. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because Doctor is here, Dr. Simon will tell you grammar up, down, certain. Who are the political parties who have politicized the whole thing? It's the ruling party, because if we had stronger institutions whereby you play foul with hate speech or you jeopardize with the funds or the chiefs and you are punished instantly. I mean instantly. I don't think anybody will have the guts. But because the laws work for those who are against the regime, and then cover up those, it works for those who are for the regime, and then on the other hand, the law protects those who are working for the regime in particular. It becomes a worry. I am saying this with bitterness in me, because no matter the grammar Dr. Sibo tells me here, she knows that we are cohort of the ruling party. Where we are today, looking for the Cameroonian identity, the regime in place is the one that has destroyed the Cameroonian identity. It is a fact, clean and clear. Thank you, doctor.
Oui, permettez-moi simplement d'ajouter, en fait, de relever un petit élément, c'est très important.
Vous voulez ajouter sur ce qu'il a dit?
Oui, sur ce qu'il a dit, c'est très important. On ne peut pas, n'est-ce pas, remettre en cause, n'est-ce pas, l'éducation qu'ont nos enfants aujourd'hui par rapport à la réflexion du gouvernement. Non, le système ou alors le gouvernement, l'État a la fonction d'instruire nos enfants. Mais je dis, c'est nous les parents qui avons la responsabilité d'éduquer nos enfants. Okay. Parce qu'il y a des valeurs. Moi, je vais vous dire, je prends une simple parenthèse.
Non, on parle des fonds, non, des chefs. C'est les enfants qui doivent...
Non, je reviens de manière générale sur ce qu'il a dit. Ah ouais, je vous dis, il y a des maisons où l'enfant ne sait pas ce qu'on appelle une mouffe. Parce que papa, maman lui a dit, on ne dit pas mouf ici. Et voilà un enfant qui grandit avec cet esprit. Il sait qu'on n'insulte pas quelqu'un. Il sait qu'on ne dit pas mouf à quelqu'un. Il sait qu'on ne désobéit pas à quelqu'un. Imaginez un enfant comme celui-là. Lorsqu'il va entrer dans la société, rassurez-vous, il ne dira jamais mouf à quelqu'un. Il ne dira jamais non à quelqu'un. Il passera le temps à respecter des gens parce que la famille a pris la peine de l'éduquer, de le modeler dans un esprit, dans un élément bien connu de tous.
Okay, doctor, we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we have 5 minutes to discuss with some young guys from Bomenda. Tell us why they're in Douala after the short break. Hello, we are in the studio this evening for the very first time with two gentlemen. They are musicians from Bomenda. One is called Pripzi Cedric Ndaki Rapson. Good evening.
Thank you, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay. And Brin Kelly, the Agaman. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, sir, and good evening to the viewers.
Yes, Agaman and Rapson. You guys are based in Bomenda. Why are you in Douala now?
Actually, we are here for a show. We
Okay.
have a show at the Terminus BBR here in Douala. So that's what brought us to Douala. Yeah.
But you guys have a group?
Yeah. We are RAPS. RAP stands for Rec Audiovisual Production Studio, based in Bamenda, Bambili, precisely. It's a label that came to function on the 12th of June last year, 2019, under the patronage of Mr. Ewin Bikum Ruben, USA, based in Maryland, precisely.
Okay, and you guys have been celebrated in Menchum, and you have been doing so well. Who came up with the idea? How many of you are working on the project?
Actually, sir, RAPS came to function through the efforts of just 3 of us. My humble self, Pripsy, X-Rabbit is not here because of one thing or the other, and the boss himself, not forgetting Mr. Fang Wadi, who is based in Yaoundé, a student. He's graduating, supposed to be here, but he will be graduating tomorrow. So we came up with that issue of making a crew that will represent whom, and we made the name to be RAPS, and actually it's working. Yeah.
It's working tomorrow. You say it's at
Terminus Agam Hall, precisely. Terminus BBR.
So you have a message for the Agam people, the Menchum people, and everybody?
Yeah, actually, even from the songs we sing, we present to the Agam people, we have a message, and the world at large. The message we have for them is for them to turn out, because actually we represent the people, and we present our songs based in the dialect. Yeah, and most of our tracks present our people.
What are you saying? What are you singing? That people should go back to the village and that peace should come back?
We preach about the war, we preach about the division, and we preach about just everything about the culture, presenting our people to the world and the world at large.
And even current events. Yeah.
Okay, one brief song before you leave us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that one we call it, we named it Me. Me means the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mankind.
Yeah. Okay, we go.
Yeah.
Mofambi,
Dizemon nya awiko wala wongi lawanma Mofambi Dizemon nya awiko wala wongi lawanma Nina Yeso to dombra itiza nyamoshindo wachuzo iki dom yotaliku.
Okay, thank you very much. And now, one last word to those who are watching you to join you tomorrow. At what time?
Precisely, the time is 6:30 p.m. I mean, it's towards the evening.
Yeah, and it's till done. We made it till done.
Till done. And entry is free.
Okay.
Yeah.
But inexhaustible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remind the population about that.
It's at 6:30. The occasion begins at 6:30 in the evening.
Adam Community Hall, BBL, Terminus.
Okay, I want to say we are grateful for your presence here this evening, and we wish you the best for tomorrow. It's also about valorizing our identity now.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's true.
so we'll see tomorrow at the community hall at
Yes.
Terminus. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you.
Okay. We take a short break, please. No problem. Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We thank you, Prepsi, Cedric Ndaki Rapson, and Bryn Kelly, the Agaman. We wish you the best for tomorrow's show, coming all the way from Bamenda. To do that, that is also a way to encourage our culture. We're talking about musicians here. We have to support them. Though you think there's a CPDM that has to do that, it starts with you, Fire Elvis Tayon. But now, identity, what seemingly is appearing in Cameroon as a fight between tribes, between almost everybody is not too happy, patriotism, is it not also an issue of sharing in the national cake? Everybody does not feel like they are represented at the level of the cake that has to go to everybody in Cameroon.
Non, je pense que l'identité camerounaise devrait déjà s'appliquer ou alors se mettre en évidence par l'amour. Par l'amour, par l'esprit d'unité et de solidarité que développerait ou alors qu'auront les uns et les autres pour l'épanouissement et le développement de son pays. Parce que si à chaque fois on va s'identifier ou alors on va justifier nos tares, nos torts et nos limites par un régime qui est en place, vous conviendrez avec moi qu'à aucun moment, et je dis dans tous les pays du monde entier, à aucun moment un régime ne va satisfaire ou alors plaire à tout le gouvernement, à tout le peuple. Non, c'est pas évident, c'est pas évident. Mais quel que soit le gouvernement, on doit garder cette culture et cette fibre-là. Soyez un peu plus précis. La crise dans le nord-ouest et le sud-est du Cameroun, par exemple, on en parlait en off. Voir des citoyens camerounais à un moment commencer à s'entretuer entre eux, moi, je dis, ça pose problème. On devrait s'interroger. Même si on n'est pas pour un système ou un gouvernement, je dis, il y a des limites. Parce qu'au finish, lorsqu'on regarde avec insistance, je veux bien poser la question, à qui on fait le plus mal? Je dis, c'est à nous-mêmes. Oui. C'est à nous-mêmes. C'est-à-dire, il y a des personnes avec qui il y a des actions qu'on devrait mener lorsqu'on se sent mal à l'aise. Mais pas arriver à un point où on s'entretue entre nous, on se mange entre nous, on s'insulte entre nous, sous prétexte qu'il y a un régime qui ne nous intéresse pas. Non, nos valeurs devraient être au-dessus. Ça, je dis encore, nos valeurs, nos principes. Et les principes et valeurs africaines que nous avons devraient être au-dessus de cette façon de penser, de cette mentalité.
Docteur Simo, si vous êtes dans nos pays et que le budget national, comme ce qui s'est passé l'année passée, où on voit le budget qui est alloué à un département, le budget qui part dans 2 régions, est-ce que vous croyez que les uns et les autres ne se sentent pas aussi délaissés par...
Je peux comprendre qu'il y ait une frustration. Ça, je le dis très clairement. Je peux comprendre qu'il y ait une frustration. Mais je ne peux pas justifier cette frustration par ce genre de comportement qui est posé aujourd'hui. Moi, j'ai toujours été contre cette réaction-là. Je dis, je peux comprendre qu'il y ait une frustration, mais il y a des manières, lorsqu'on est adulte, lorsqu'on a certaines valeurs, lorsqu'on a certains principes dans la vie, il y a des comportements, il y a des niveaux que l'on peut franchir, et des niveaux que l'on ne peut pas franchir. Ça, je le dis avec honnêteté.
Nous sommes en train de parler sur la manière de forger une identité camerounaise où tout le monde
devrait se retrouver.
Oui. Est-ce que, je ne dis pas que les gens sont en train de lutter pour ça, je dis, est-ce qu'il n'est pas nécessaire de créer une situation où tout le monde, chaque Camerounais, se sent représenté dans ce qui est camerounais?
Est-ce que vous parlez de représentation dans ce qui est camerounais? Prenons les ressources humaines. Moi, je crois que, allons par exemple dans le gouvernement, tout le Cameroun est représenté. Quelle représentation voulez-vous? Je crois, allons dans le gouvernement camerounais, je dis bien, dans l'ensemble des ministres, mais tous les Camerounais sont représentés. Si on veut simplement entrer dans des cultures. Moi, je dis, s'il faudrait revenir sur les budgets, heureusement que maintenant, on a mis sur pied les régionales. Maintenant, attendons que vivement, que les acteurs se mettent à l'œuvre et que toutes les régions se sentent impliquées et voient leur région émerger comme ils l'ont toujours fait.
C'est 15% du budget qui doit descendre. Hein?
Oui, mais je dis quand même, au-delà de 15%, on est arrivé au moins à un niveau où on donne la possibilité à chaque région de pouvoir investir, c'est déjà un avantage. Ça, il faut le dire très clairement. Et chacun va commencer, n'est-ce pas, à développer des activités génératrices de revenus qui permettront à leur région de s'exprimer beaucoup plus aisément. C'est déjà un pas à louer, à saluer.
Okay. Yes, I'm talking about frustrations that are generated by the fact that some Cameroonians don't feel. We are talking about patriotism. They think that the government is not taking is not making adequate efforts to make them take full benefit of what Cameroon has as resources.
You know, I grew with my father, and he taught me something which remains in me till tomorrow. And that thing that was taught to me was the fact that I should never depend on him.
Okay.
He actually inculcated the culture in us to actually become, let me use the word, entrepreneurs at a very young age. Where you leave school and you come back, he gives you goods to go and sell. And when he sends you to go and sell, he tells you, this is what you have to come and give me from every product you sell. So he's teaching you how to make money at that young age. Why did I take that particular part? It's just to pin back that point that in Africa we were taught to become contributors to the community and not persons who are expecting from the community. We are not refusing the fact, and I will never accept that what happened last year concerning the budget should be what should be happening, where a single subdivision, a division had money, in fact a budget allocated for it that beats 2 regions. That was very wrong. It's not correct. But it does not mean that Cameroonians have to depend on the government
solely
at every given moment, expecting that the government will meet them. There is no government on earth that can be able to meet the needs of the people. None. And that is why, even with the bitterness of people, if we keep this culture of being the ones, there's an American president that borrowed this, John F. Kennedy, where he said you should not ask what America has done for you, ask what you have done for America. That is the culture of Africa, where we contribute to the community. We don't expect that what the community gives us is to groom us together. And that is why you hear an African person who say it takes a village to raise a child. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child. When that child grows, the child becomes part of the village. He too needs to raise other children. So it becomes a part and parcel of him to contribute back to his society, to his community. But we lack that in Cameroon, because we have been made to believe that until I have a matricule number that permits me to take money from the government, I am not working. So we train children to become job seekers. They spend their time hunting after jobs. And what do you expect? When a person does not have a job at the end of the day, the person needs to look for a way to grip the government by the neck if the government was a physical person. And so normally we have to, just like Fa is doing here, turn our anger towards the government. Look at Mr. Bia and blame him.
So you think that Fa is
Fa is a politician, so he knows what. So I would not want to always hold down that government. I want to look at myself. What am I doing to change the situation of Cameroonians? Is that
the identity Cameroonian youth should take upon themselves today? That is self-reliant, looking for ways to better their lot away from the government?
Let us first start off by saying that Cameroon is where she is because something is missing from the formula again. Social justice.
Okay.
There's no social justice. Yes. When there is social justice, when children have to go to Enam, you will not find children from one family filling a whole class. All right? There's no social justice. So we should all say it loud and clear that for us to become the Cameroonians that we want to be and be patriotic, there must be social justice, where everybody, be an orphan or a widow, you find your place, and you don't need a parapluie or a goddess to be anybody. That's the bottom line. Now, that said, it's very, very important that I also say that the problems of Africa and Africans are ignorance and irresponsibility. And when you go to look deeply to find out what is creating a lot of these problems, you know, people don't have money in their pockets. There's poverty. You know, if you can solve the poverty problem so that people can be able to meet their needs, then they will become more patriotic. And you cannot, it's very difficult for people to be patriotic when they're hungry. They have to deal with the hunger issue first. They have to you have to give them back some personality. They have to feel at home, and then that thing that was suppressed by hunger called patriotism will come to the forefront and would flourish. So we need to find out how we can train our youths and our adults, everybody, to understand problems, to be able to solve problems, and to know how to create wealth. It's very important. Until we all help people, everybody, to create wealth for themselves and for their families and their communities, we'll only be making a lot of noise, and there can be no patriotism when there is hunger.
When there's hunger, how do we, young people today, they will take a different set of teachers to get them towards that direction, or it should be a policy? And when you look at the growth and employment strategic paper that is supposed to lead Cameroon towards emergence 2035, is that found in it?
No. Let me just answer the question about the emergence in 2035. If we are going the way we are going, there will be no 2035. And if you look at that that strategic paper, whatever you call it, that thing was written by civil servants who don't know how to create wealth. And so, technically, if you had asked South Koreans, to write that paper for you, it would be different. But the trick about it is that the South Koreans will write a paper and give you, and you cannot implement it because you don't know what they are talking about. And yet, these other people, they have written the growth strategic whatever, and the country is not going to grow because that's not the way you can grow the economy. So you see, there is a dichotomy here. The bottom line is there is some serious homework that we need to do to get things right.
Okay, there's serious homework. Cameroon identity. Do we need a Cameroon also where a child who is from Furuawa, a child who is from Mora, from anywhere, can become a minister with feeling, without any prejudice, thinking that, okay, because I'm not from this region, because I don't belong to this party, it's practically impossible for me to. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That is a very good question. A very nice one. If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. The question you are asking is when we are talking about a normal functioning government, not a redundant government. Just like Madam said, you know, if you have the capacity, begin to ask yourself, how are people even appointed? Because those issues revolve around government. Let us not be rigmaroling. It revolves around how does the government operate, because the government is the mother of a nation. If the government of a nation is limping, everything down will be limping. That was true. We understand before then that some 20 years ago, educated Ghanaians could not produce wealth in Ghana. They were here in Cameroon, shoemending. I was in CPC, but my physics teacher was a Ghanaian, Mr. Deko. Very intelligent. But he ran over from Ghana and came to Cameroon to be teaching on a salary of about 72,000 francs CFA. A very smart person. But when things turned over and Ghanaians decided to put a policy to get back all the intelligent persons are brought back into the country with patriotic spirit put in place, when they came back, where is Ghana today? I have said that we are leaving the real object and chasing the shadow. Anything that functions well in a country depends on the government policy in place. Professor Anthony just said right here, you know, we don't have to be depending on the government, we have to do this and that. These things are sweet, the way they say it. It sounds very like melodic. Practically, it does not go. So, Prof is singing Hallelujah Choir here, where we are. The issue is simple. When you sit on a platform of this nature, let me tell you something, Mr. Leon. I am running a group made up of young persons. There are more than 30 We call them Hyper-African Technology Association, Hyper-Afrique Technology Association. There are young guys are brought together from Boya and Limbe who they have discovered they have been able to fabricate what they call incubators. They were once here. I'm the one patronizing them. If I tell you the orders I've taken between here, Yaoundé, all over, to see that they get just assistance to get them go, we will not be blowing this ground blowing here. Yaoundé regime is sleeping and is rotten. Look at the young guy who produced Caterpillar. I was gallivanting around the media. Where is he today? I have another guy who came to see me from Bamenda. That guy produced an helicopter that was flying up. I'm sure you saw it sometime on the TV. That guy fell into my own group, and he was called over to Yaoundé and give me some few monies for political reasons. Story has died down. Today we are trying to revamp that guy. These are guys that have talents. Doctor says something. When you are poor and you are hungry, it is difficult to get a talent out of you. And the moment you have a talent and you have a serious government, they pull that talent out from you, pick you up, put you and rehabilitate you, and you will end up work for the defense of that nation in future. Every little action faces a reaction. Once you are in a sleeping regime that is not innovative, and they come and they are preaching how you have to work hard and depend on the government, it is a sign of failure of a regime. Failure of the first order. That's why you see me vibrating, because I know Madam Simo will take this thing to Yaoundé to tell the Central Committee that they have failed Cameroonians because we have talents of youths. Go to Boya. I have been to most of those schools, even government technical high school. That most of them who have discovered circuit breakers, small things. You hear them today, tomorrow they are no longer there. The next day they are selling in the market. You discover how that talent dies a natural death. But if you see where the government moves towards them, like the one who was giving some gifts or whatever at the University of Boya, is when they want to make aggrandizement for political reasons. As just like Doctor said, politics is taking precedence in most of the things. But who are those masterminding? Those in power take everything for politics. That is why you see, as I said, the group that I brought up. If I tell you the officers have knocked, they all look at me as if I'm acting drama. And the guys that I told them, let's just keep moving. Today's incubator, the other day they are dealing some other kind of technical issues. And I told them, all right, we can only link you now with UNICEF and the other things, because if you're relying on the government, we have done what Napoleon left undone, Mr. Leo. So the policy in the country does not permit those kind of talents to come up very easily. That's why you see, when I see Dr. Lee talk about entrepreneurship, I'm very happy, because if all the Cameroonians had that kind of possibility and they were not hungry, for example, and they could follow his kind of educational system, I'm sure would have been where we are, would have been further than where we are today. So the main system we have here is that the system in place does not have a policy. You have scientific and research and innovation. What has Harasa Ministry done? What are the things that they have researched upon? And we have young youths. We have industry technological development. These are youth that would have been attached to these ministries. Where are we today? And it's not all. Go even to Bamenda. There are many youths. There was one guy around Mwa sometime who introduced a system of generating electricity in Mwa.
Was it in Mwa or in Kumbu?
No. That one is Kumbu is different. In Mwa, in a small area generated like within the compound where they are, different from the issue in Kumbu. That was about 6 years ago. That story has died down as we speak now. The one in Kumbu who produced a helicopter that is still in front of the council area there has died down. So what kind of encouragement can we get from this kind of regime? That Professor Marx says, no, you have to. Don't ask what the nation has done for you. Cameroon has not done anything for us first. So what should we be expecting? We should keep on asking them, because it is their duty. If not, we have some youths today, talents are dying out. I feel so very sad, Mr. Leo. Because when they come to me, artists come to me, and I don't have what it takes to project them along. In the radio there in Boya, we have more than 7 artists who come. Okay. Young, energetic. Where are they?
Can I respond?
Very, very brief.
Yes, very brief. Mr. Fa, you seem not to be understanding what I'm saying. If you have depended on the government and the government is not carrying you anywhere, should you keep depending? It's like you are depending on you are hoping that a dog will protect you while the dog is dead. Is that not very bad of you to depend on
what I'm telling you, the way I talk is that it cannot function freely as you think, because hunger is there, poverty is there.
What I'm simply making you to understand is this. It is good to depend if there is hope. But when you don't see hope, depend on yourself. What I want you to understand is this. The first thing is that it is a wrong culture for Africans to keep on depending. And that is the reason why Africa is not evolving. We remain in one place hoping that it will always come from somewhere to meet us. We need to start getting to a place where, you see, I I have a different sense about entrepreneurship.
It takes money.
Entrepreneurship.
The grammar you're blowing here.
That one is you talking.
It takes money.
Because you don't know how to
Even
do
to run
it.
a plantation,
So learn
plantation in the farm is not in the village, not easy the way you think. You need pesticide. You need insecticide.
let me say something to you that you don't understand. I am running a 30 hectares farm over there at Puma. I never started it with money. That's the thing that most of us we fail to understand. Yes.
You got a suckers in the air.
You see, that is the error. You need to find out what is the secret behind it. And so when you come and you want to talk, try to educate Cameroonians. Don't only tell them this is pain, this is pain. When we pour the anger, we pour the pain. How do we solve the problem? You need to get to a place to start pointing to them how to solve the problem.
Entrepreneurs should be truthful when they come on air. A man makes a success. A man succeeds in business. The next day he tells you, I was roasting plantains before I made this business. But they will not tell you the real things that they went through. They will not tell you that the business is difficult. But this is where we went through.
It's difficult.
Dr. Nick is here.
There is a
Dr. Nick did not make business overnight. Dr. Nick has suffered. And he has failed several times with debts up and down before making it. But people need this kind of stories. But when you come on air, you give us all sweet talks. You know, I started plantation with no franc. It's impossible. The suckers were not gotten from the heaven.
Am I allowed to say something?
Yes, doctor.
I want to really say something now because you see, Fire Elvis and Mark over here, they are bickering a lot, but you see, the issue here is you are dealing with two mentalities. Far has the mentality of a civil servant and an employee, while Mark over here has the mindset of an entrepreneur. The way entrepreneurs think and go for things, how they raise capital and how they do things is completely different. You see, and you see, when you have that mindset where you think that because something is good, the government has to pay for it, or somebody has to go for it, do something about it. It doesn't work like that. Even in America, it doesn't work like that. So again, like we said, the problem is with the kind of education we have, because when we have the right education, part of that education will teach us how we raise money to make things happen. And usually when you are very convinced about something, there will always be a window that you can use. And when we don't have that, we always keep thinking that somebody owes us. We have this sense of entitlement, which is wrong. And so Mr. Far Elvis, those people who are coming to you doing is great. It's because probably you have something to give them, but that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And we need to actually study entrepreneurship and know how you raise capital and go for it. Otherwise, there are 25 million people in Cameroon. The 25 million will go to, they always have an idea. They will go to the government for money. And the government doesn't have that kind of money. Okay. But you need to know how you come together, form small groups, support each other, use family resources, and so on. Like Mark was saying here, he started a 30 hectare farm. Instead of you saying it's a lie, ask him how he did it, because actually what he's saying is true.
We know more, doctor.
Master, if you don't know how to do it, keep quiet.
No, doctor.
No.
It's entrepreneurship.
Every entrepreneurship goes.
No, leave it like that, Master. Leave it like that. No, leave it like that. It is first the spirit. Come on.
Nous sommes en
train de... When you want money, go to the banks and take it.
Please, Emile, just a second. Vous voyez qu'à la fin, on revient sur un concept que j'ai soulevé dès le départ, c'est l'éducation. Oui. Il y a cette éducation-là qui nous manque. Oui. Ce sont de pointer du doigt le gouvernement, le système et tout ce qui va avec. Je n'ai pas dit qu'ils n'ont pas leur part de responsabilité. Ça, je ne l'ai pas dit. Mais il y a d'abord cette éducation à la base que nous n'avons pas. Et c'est ça, en fait, qui nous amène à ne pas nous retrouver dans notre patriotisme, dans notre identité personnelle en tant que Camerounais. Parce qu'on a cette éducation qui est biaisée. Là, je ne serais peut-être pas d'accord avec eux à un endroit lorsque je les ai entendus dire parce que j'ai faim, je dois corrompre ou je dois... Non, c'est pas parce que j'ai faim qu'un président de parti politique me dira de me déshabiller et de marcher nu. Je vais le faire parce que j'ai faim, non. C'est parce que j'ai faim que je vais le faire. Parce que j'ai des valeurs propres à moi. J'ai cette dignité que je veux garder en moi. J'ai ce respect de ma personne que je veux préserver. Alors pour ça, quel que soit le montant que vous me donnerez, M. Talio, je ne le ferai pas. Parce que ces valeurs, on me les a inculquées et elles sont restées ancrées en moi. C'est de ça qu'il est question. Donc lorsqu'on a des valeurs, il y a des choses qu'on ne peut pas faire, même si on veut mourir. D'ailleurs, on préfère mourir.
Oui, c'est-tu que vous êtes, c'est quoi, dignité, élégance et...
Noblesse, dignité et élégance.
Élégance, ok. Ok. Il faut que je prenne un peu de messages. Hein. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Kudos to you and the panelists there. I love the way they are debating. forging a real Cameroon implies we will still have another 50 years to come out of corruption. Okay. You cannot imagine that students in a government teachers training college took part in the 20th May March Pass. After the March Pass, they were given 1,000 francs each by the principal, who was a CPDM section president. Was that patriotism? William is writing from Bomenda. Maybe it was transporter for them to go back to their houses.
Did the nursery school children get?
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm very happy my man is with you people. Mr. Elvis, you are welcome. Boris from Yaoundé. Bravo to my boys for this song. Boris is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you. Boris, good evening to all the panelists. Mr. Liu, Dr. Nick Riley said patriotism is a spirit. In the early 2000s, at the age of 17, I will rush home to watch the Lions playing. I will stand up to sing the anthem, but I don't do that anymore because that spirit left me as a result of dishonesty and unfaithfulness of our elites. Obi is writing from Limbe. Hello, Kum chiefs should be apolitical to preserve the culture and tradition, which is our heritage. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. There is no patriotic Cameroonian. Take 10 youths of 28-30 years and give them 2 million, which giving them, tell them to do what they want. I tell you, Mr. Liu, please. I tell you, Mr. Liu, the next day you will see at least 8 in the immigration office. Okay. Esther from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to you all in the house. Your program is educative. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to everyone in the house. I'm enjoying the program. At the same time, learning many things. Esther is writing from Yaoundé. The other Esther wrote from Kumba. Good evening to you both, Esthers. Good evening, gentlemen and lady. On board today, our late president and current president both destroyed the identity of Cameroon, thinking they were destroying the Anglophones. We sit and pretend to talk about one and indivisible Cameroon, but 98% of the national cake is shared and owned by a particular region. With this system in place, in the next 5,000 years, Cameroon will still be the same. Okay, Raymond is writing from the United Arab Emirates. Good evening to all in the studio. This is Mr. Shemka Inkwen Bamenda. The issue that makes Cameroonians proud are not being taken seriously by the government. When I look at what is happening to our football, I see only egoism and power mongering in play and not love for country. I can forge. Okay. Please just be civil. This one says the technician should work on the sound. I hope that that has been taken care of already. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Tembu Luis from Bengui. I like your program. Thank you very much, Luis. Good evening, Mr. Liu and crew. Let our people have the right birthday certificate in public services. First, repentance. Okay. Wow, that one is deep. Good evening, Mr. Liu, watching from Cyprus. I must say that it is the duty of the government to do this. If they can prepare the youth for the future, they should prepare the future for the youth. But our own government has failed, okay? Gangs, okay. Pastor Do Temnia says, good evening, Mr. Liu. Please let Prof tell us how he started plantains farm without money, because I run plantain farms too, and I know how much I spend each year to pay workers and keep the farms clean. More to that, the council is too corrupt and discouraging farmers. In Limbe 3, the mayor collects tax from farmers through mobile money. I can forward you the details. Derek, okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. Please ask a prof to tell us how he started a plantation with no money. It's Vela writing from Bafang. Okay, good evening to you, Vala. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Even if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, how do you go about it when the government will kill your spirit with taxes or even discourage you like what they did with the guy from Kumbo who was asked to stop what he was doing? Gora Hilda, writing from Bonaberry in Douala here. This one says, Wala Please, I need the contact of Fcfa. Please, he needs to help me in my career. Khan is writing from Kumba. Okay, they want to join your team. Okay, Jackie writing from Limbe says, good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, Dr. Nick should let Mr. Tayon look foolish based on his own opinion on youth obtaining help from the government to start a business. I think it's the right of every Cameroonian. Okay, Jackie, good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The government policy has a primordial role to play in private policy sector or entrepreneurship. Okay. Efokwa Wilson is writing from Boya. Oops. Now, let us look at, I'll start with you.
Yes.
We want a Cameroonian identity that cuts across culture, politics, traditional authorities. Do you think that Cameroonians need to come together, not to talk politics, but to look for a way forward? And if they don't do that, the National Assembly and Senate should look into this.
Non, c'est pas. Je vais dire très clairement et avec toute l'honnêteté possible, les Camerounais ont déjà cette fibre de solidarité et de vivre ensemble là. Ça, il faut.
Non, je dis identité camerounaise, pas le vivre en tout cas. Oui, oui.
Je veux déjà, il faut que déjà, parce que tout ça, l'identité camerounaise va
Ok.
partir de cette fibre de vivre ensemble.
Oui, oui.
On ne peut pas avoir une identité si on n'a pas le vivre ensemble, si on n'a pas cet esprit de vivre ensemble, si on n'a pas cet esprit patriotique en nous, on ne peut pas avoir une identité. Donc tout part de là. Et je dis encore, les Camerounais ont cet esprit-là, ont cette fibre en elles, même si elle est endormie, je dis bien, ils ont cette fibre-là. Maintenant, ce qui est important, c'est que sur le plan de l'éducation, que sur le plan de la tradition, et là même nos chefs traditionnels vont devoir intervenir, que toutes les forces vives de la nation, que toutes nos autorités, n'est-ce pas, mettent des systèmes en place qui vont amener les uns et les autres à plus dialoguer, parce que voilà aussi un élément, tout part de là, le dialogue, le regard, le fait de se regarder en face et se dire des réalités concrètes et vraies, parce qu'au finish, je dis toujours, au finish, nous sommes un et indivisible. D'ailleurs, comme disait quelqu'un, nous sommes les enfants d'une même mère. Donc, au-delà de nos différences politiques, au-delà de nos clivages, même religieux, on devrait inculquer ou alors mettre à l'esprit que nous sommes des citoyens camerounais.
Dialogue, non? Dialogue, il faut dialogue entre les ethnies, entre les peuples, tout ça, non? Est-ce qu'on peut dialoguer sans
devrait
venir?
déjà commencer même dans des familles.
Oui, ben c'est ça.
Le dialogue devrait déjà commencer dans des familles. Et c'est pourquoi depuis longtemps, je continue de dire, même nous les parents, nous avons échoué à un moment. Il faudrait qu'on s'arrête un peu de chercher, de courir après les richesses, parce que c'est ce que nous faisons aujourd'hui, courir après les richesses, et on oublie à un moment l'éducation des enfants. Moi, je connais des parents qui vont faire une semaine sans regarder le cahier de son enfant. Je dis c'est très dangereux. Qu'on s'arrête un instant et qu'on revienne aux valeurs, parce qu'on est en train de plonger tous dans un système d'acculturation qui nous éloigne de nos valeurs, des valeurs propres que nous avons, nous Africains, qui sont la solidarité et ce vivre ensemble là. Qu'on s'arrête et qu'on regarde un peu qu'est-ce qui n'a pas marché, qu'est-ce qu'on n'a pas fait, avant de voir ce que le gouvernement devrait rajouter pour que cet esprit, cette fibre identitaire, cet esprit de patriotisme soit relevé en nous davantage.
Yes, Dr. Simo is raising this issue of our cultural identity as Africans, Cameroonians, that is being submerged in a global identity. We are talking about globalization. Is that not where the real problem is, where almost everybody wants to identify themselves to the West, to be called civilized, and forgetting where we are coming from? That is creating what they call cultural mulattoes, because we are neither the West, neither African.
That is where the problem is, Leo. If you look at it critically, you discover that the loss of African identity is as a result of the imposition of Western culture on Africans. And when you come back to a place like Cameroon, you see, there's a time where you speak. I remember as students in school, nowadays when you speak the dialect in school, they will laugh at you. It was like a taboo to speak dialect.
To be countryman.
That's it. And that is as a result of this idea that of globalization. I am civilized, forgetting to know that it is not the language you speak that makes you civilized. it is a
The
way,
value
a
you
way
carry.
of life, yes, a way of life that you live that makes you civilized. And during that period, when they laugh at you, you stay quiet, you shy away and stay. And that is how most of the young people you have today, finally, some of them can't even speak their dialects because they want to be civilized. And that is a serious problem that we need to solve. And that is why from the beginning I said, it is necessary that our, not only in primary school, like Dr. Simo said that it is done now. I remember my daughter came the other day and asked me, Daddy, how do they count from 1 to 10 the dialect? I had to give him. It is good, but that is not all. It is supposed to be at a serious note. Look at what happened in Rwanda. It was Kagame imposed Swahili as a national language that everybody, in fact, they use it in teaching in school. That is a language that is used officially in Rwanda as we are talking. And English is after. They have just removed French completely. And that is the kind of way where identities are forged. Already, we are speaking here in the Congos. If you go to Congo, there are more than 300 and something different tribes. But they have a language that is
They have a dominant
common
language, yeah.
Lingala.
Why did that happen? That is a means to identify them. If you see a Congolese here, you hear them talking, they don't know which tribe this one is coming from. They speak Lingala. But here in Cameroon, we want to show we are the ones who fabricated English, we are the ones who, in fact, fabricated French, we are the ones who generated it. So we speak the French and the English and we abandon our various languages, which is as a result of that idea of globalization.
Yes, we don't want to identify with
with
cultures.
ourselves.
Like our brothers who just
Yes.
sang here.
And that is it, Mr. Leo. And it causes you at the end of the day not to have an identity. So language is one of those things. But as we will say, it falls back on education. The educational system needs to be crafted to carry these things in it, where you are taught to believe in yourself. Because what a lot of Africans lack is belief in self. They don't believe in who they are. They believe out there and not in themselves. So we need to be taught that base. Believe in yourself, not only in the language you
Yes.
speak.
How many parents sit back in their houses and they play the traditional dance from their respective villages
That
for their
is-
children to identify with?
That is
Do
the
they know?
problem. Some of us, I grew, in fact, I was even made to be the captain of the traditional dance when I was growing. In fact, I danced it to secondary school. So it is part and parcel of us. In my father's house,
Their children listen to it.
my children listen to it occasionally because I'm not around them. Now that's where there's a problem. But when I was growing up in my father's house, speaking the dialect is something that is just normal. He's not supposed to talk to you in the dialect and you respond in English. When you does that, he slaps you. And that is how we learned. But it is different today with somebody like me. I am married to a lady that's not from the same tribe from which I come from. So that already creates a situation. Now, we need to teach the children both languages.
Yeah, but your wife spends more time with them, so.
But the funny
She has
thing is that she
advantage.
spends more time, but she does not speak. Mais elle n'enseigne même pas parce que quand tu arrives, I'm the one to still teach them both languages.
Okay. Glory to God, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroon.
And she's listening.
Cameroon politicians cannot forge the Cameroon identity. Please, I suggest you do a part 2 of this program. In our days in school, we were taught civics and society, within which we had to be taught the values and love for Cameroon. Please, in the next program, invite anthropologists, sociologists, funds and chiefs, teachers and pastors to forge a Cameroon identity. It will take policymakers. Please, it will take policymakers who should be apolitical. These policymakers should be people of integrity, truth, and value. The policies written should go beyond political party agenda, and no government should take away such policies. Thanks. Pastor Jasper is writing from Germany. Pastor, okay, you are requesting for a part 2 of this program. I'll do that. I'm sure next week we are going to do a part 2 of this program. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I like your program. Thank you. John Vera is writing from Tibati. Hello, Mr. Liu. Maman Elvis, I wish I was there as a businessman to give you my money. Little high to Dr. Prof. Okay. Can't you give Elvis money? First send my own. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The identity of Cameroon is shattered by our leaders with lies. So the government doesn't support most of the creativity in our villages. Emma is also writing from Tibati. Good evening, Mr. Liu. We don't go to business, but we grow into business. That's by go under somebody who will mentor you. Kimbeng is writing from Ngembo in Bengui. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The government in place is not serious. Even the people who are not in politics are suffering. Samuel Eto'o tried putting his network in Cameroon, but the government killed it with taxes, and now South Africans are enjoying. He tried opening his football school, and he was double-crossed over the land. He bought New Guineans. Okay, now Guineans are enjoying. Clifford Kombi writing from Carrefour, Pendamboko. Good evening to you all watching us from Pendamboko. And now I just want to pass this message before I do that. Somebody wrote here, Doctor, that when they were growing, they were taught to respect almost everything. When he's passing, he will sing the national anthem. If he sees the flag, he had absolute respect for it, but that all of that is gone because of the bad examples from the political elite.
Yeah, that's all. That is true. That is true, and like that's what I said. They tell a lot of lies and so on. So let's not even waste time on that. But you know, the reactions. There was 2 reactions from you. You know, one the gentleman from Benguina who is saying, you have to go through some kind of a mentorship. You don't just go into business, you have to go through mentorship. That is very good. And then there's the lady from Limbe who's supporting Tar Elvis, that the government has to give young people money. No, even if it doesn't exist anywhere in the world. There's a way of doing it. There's a way of doing it. You cannot just take money and then just sharing to people there. It doesn't happen. You see, so when Tar Elvis said it, when I was very strong in my reaction, was because we are here to encourage everybody out there to wake up somehow. But if we give them the impression that government will come to their doorsteps and be giving them money, that is a false image. That's why I was so hard on it, so that we don't get away with the wrong impression and sleep there thinking, if you're in Limbe and you're sleeping, you think the government will come and give you money. Continue to sleep. When you're 50, come and tell me.
Okay, this one says, it seems you do select write-ups. Just an observation. He says, I'm not happy the way you used to manage your program as such. To me, it seems as if you used to read write-ups from you selected persons. No, please, who is this? From Bunkwe RN, writing from Yaoundé. You wrote yesterday, I did not, yes, on Wednesday I did not read. You can't read all the messages now. As we speak, there are just hundreds of messages you can't read, and I don't select. Please, just send a message now. I'll read it. Send it. I'll read it. Now, we are talking about the notion of forging a national identity for Cameroon and all Cameroonians. Now, we have talked so much about the notion of national integration and unity, and they say at the National Assembly, an MP is an MP for the nation and not for the constituency. But have we seen in Cameroon where an MP who is from far north shows so much interest in something that is happening in Douala, or an MP from the south so interested in the issues of the northwest? And do we see that? Why don't we respect that? Because they say an MP is an MP for the nation, but seemingly everybody is still fighting for.
Well, you know,
are they not supposed to lead by example?
You know that I don't know. Am I the one to answer?
Yes, you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You know that the question you're asking is a very pertinent one, but the answer is clear. Anything that operates in this country is not operating by chance. It's operating by a carefully worked up mechanism, and so it's made in a way that, as I said, we have very good laws, where they all sound very good on paper, But practically, you have to work in line with party objectives when you are sent to wherever you are sent. And that's why I said that, though on paper they will tell you that when you are MP for the nation, look at it. During the ongoing Anglophone crisis, there was a time when senators of the South gathered and make a declaration. I'm sure you still remember. That's something that was supposed to have been kicked off against. And they made a declaration dissociating themselves from certain activities and covering themselves as senators of that particular area. It was a call for concern. Because, as I said, if you are a senator for the country or an MP, you are supposed to as per se, but practically it's not what we have on ground. Why? Because the regime in Yaoundé carefully works out that system of party lineage, so that when people work on party lines, it goes a long way to make people not have a stronger stand to kick against the system.
How does the party do that? If you are an MP from the far north, how does the party tell you that don't be interested in what is happening in the littoral?
Let me tell you something, Mr. Leon. I have covered the National Assembly for more than 7 other sessions. Before any time that Senate sits on National Assembly, there are preliminary meetings that take place. I've been always in Yaoundé. Those who are watching me, even former MPs and senators, they know what I'm talking about. And when the formal meetings take place, sometimes the agenda is filtered in it before the meeting begins, before the Senate or the session begins, where they tell you this is the stand we take. You'll be surprised that before people sit on the official agenda, most of the persons know the agenda already. And they tell you that this is our stand. And make sure you don't deviate from the stand, come rain, come sun. They understand what I'm talking about. And most of those meetings sometimes take place even late in the night. I have one of the MP who said she's got tired of the issues of midnight meetings and all the like. Sometimes when they have critical issues, they discuss. So you discuss that before you go, the members, whether it's from the central committee of your party, whether it's CPDM or any other party where you belong to, they always give you guidelines on how to go about to defend the party objectives whenever those cases are raised. It happens. Those who are watching me, they know what I'm talking about. I've assisted in some of those meetings as a reporter who was just doing the job. I did not want to get things mixed up because I know how to take different from my job and different from politics. And so, in a nutshell, you realize that that's where the issue comes in, because we mix up things, and at the end of it, the party itself stands primordial over national issues. That is the issue that transpires in Cameroonian politics at the National Assembly, at the Senate. And just like we're interjecting on the fact of, things that people need to do. Some of us were input, maybe what most of us have not known is that away from a politician, I am an economic journalist. Away from that, I'm sure some people will know that. All the time I've worked, I give an input at the level of economics. So when we look at economic now, at the level of the MP, now I'm coming. It has to do with that.
We are out of time, man.
So if it comes to that, you realize that at the level of the politics, the economy was supposed to apply at the National Assembly for the good of the country is covered and overshadowed and overthrown by politics itself. That's why you see, I always like the statement that Dr. Simo just said, that most things are transformed into politics. The only thing that we have not been able to now call those that are specialized in that transformation, because that's where the issue comes from. If you take COVID-19, it was politicized. Most things that come up, even the music association that came up, policies got into it and it delayed the election, so everything is politicized, which is not supposed to be so.
Okay.
Politics is always politics, economics, health. That's how it's supposed to be.
La crise du nozo, ça tu...
Okay. Hi, Mr. Leo. Hi, Mr. Leo. I'm with...
c'est votre outil de bataille.
Hi.
2018, vous allez aux élections et après vous dites parce qu'il y a la crise. Voilà.
Okay, hi, Mr. Liu. I'm with my man, Mr. Elvis. Why are there no scholarships in Cameroon? I have been offered admission to study chemical engineering in Cali University Institute of Boya, but lack funding for my program. But yet there is a lot of money in Cameroon. Look at ministers burning money. I watched Dr. Nick today on Afrique, encouraging technology in our country. Angel Brown, writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love what you do. Just want to say that Dr. Nick is okay. He's a very, Zurich. Okay, he's a good teacher in Cameroon. It is practically difficult to do all what he is saying. Can Prof. Mark tell us how he got the 30 hectares of land? Basil is writing from from Limbe. But please tell me. Okay. Stop calling, please. Take a few messages and recall it. Good evening to all. I'm Nunzak Fidelin from Limbe. Please think we have too much problems in Cameroon because we don't love ourselves. Okay, I think so. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Liu and all in the panel. The question of a Cameroonian identity is not just to see one and indivisible, Do we understand one language, eat from the same dish, wear the same clothes, feel the same pains? No, it's because of this that people take the advantage and create pockets of identity. Cameroon is not a nation, so we have to be careful. Kingsley is writing from Moya. Okay, Kingsley, it's not a nation. What is it? Okay, let me search some detailed number, and we have come to the end of the program. Sadly, we have to end here. Except,
I just want to remind all Cameroonians that we should stop telling lies and we should be loving each other. Let's go for truth. Let's go for truth and love, and we'll heal the nation. We tell a lot of lies, especially elites. Thanks.
Oui, si je peux terminer en disant simplement qu'il est important que nous croyons à ce concept du chef de l'État, le vivre ensemble et indivisibilité du Cameroun. Et ceci ne peut passer, comme il l'a dit, que par l'amour, que par la solidarité et par la conception selon laquelle tout citoyen que je retrouve sur le territoire camerounais est mon frère.
Okay, thank you, Professor Mark, for coming.
Nothing actually happens in your life without your involvement. If you choose to stay down, sleeping, you end up nobody. So I think you have to get involved in building who you want to see tomorrow. That's what I can say.
Fire every time you came late. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. The hurdles are made in town. I'm doubting whether they can and the shan will even take place with the way I see the hurdles. But all the same, you could imagine the hours I took to cut across. But then, I think that all in all, I buy the idea of Dr. Nick, the aspect of not choosing to tell lies, be truthful and all the like. I think those are some of the things we need. And at the end of it, Mr. Liu, I think that the only thing we owe Cameroonians is to tell them the truth on how we go about our transactions so that they can learn and how to go about it, knowing that it is not easy, as we might say it on TV, but it is possible. And so they could follow, but we tell them the truth and the steps we take, which are not all that easy. Thank you.
Okay, we want to thank you all who took time off to watch the program. Very, very interesting topic. The messages are so many, but the time is limited. So, as Pastor Jasper is requesting from Germany that there should be a part B of this program next week, we are still going to discuss on it, looking at it from a different angle. We want to thank you all, Desmond, and also to you, Eli, and Bertrand, whoever is at the broadcasting, and to you, Tabi Bryant. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.